Hello, everyone! It is not Tuesday. It is Wednesday for once. Scheduling. Today's guest for Hackster Café, my favorite time of the week, is David Groom, who has created or recently become the community editor at Make Magazine and also done a ton of cool projects. You may know him from around the internet. Good morning or afternoon, David. How's it going?
It's afternoon here. I'm not sure. I guess it's afternoon there too. Yeah, it's going great.
Sweet. So, part of the reason that I asked you on today is because it is Retro Tech and Gaming Month here at Hackster, and you've been posting some really cool stuff with some HP palm tops. Can you tell us what a palm top is and what you've been doing with these things?
Sure, definitely. So these little devices, I've got a pile of them. I don't know which one to start with first, but these are not the ones that I personally had as a child. But when I was little, my dad was in like IT, and so he used to buy a lot of HP and Sun and SGI workstations and stuff like that. And one day he came home with, buy $10 million worth of HPs, get a free one of these, and he gave it to me.
Wow.
and and this, this is a long time ago when I was little, and like laptops existed, but they were like, high profile executive or something. It's not everyone has laptop, not everyone necessarily has computer, and
Mm.
so I'm walking around with like a little computer in my pocket, a little kid with a computer in his pocket, and people are like, "What is that?" And so yeah, I've always been really kind of obsessed with these things. And if you look around the office, there's various, like there's an Amiga up here, and there's a C64 back there, and there's lots of old computers. But what it was really was during the pandemic, I've hoarded retro
Mm.
computers for the longest time. But during the pandemic, I started doing these sort of like comfort food activities, I would call them, where
Mm.
I would kind of revisit things from my childhood or teenage years or whatever, like read old books that I'd read back then and get into old things like that. And I didn't have any of these things at the beginning of the pandemic. And I made myself a deal that like I'd buy a $50 one on eBay,
Mm.
and if I actually used it, I'd allow myself to. So this is the HP 95LX, which is
Mm.
the original cheap bottom of the line one. And I was like, I'll let myself buy. I'll buy myself 200LX if I like actually use this thing, because all my other stuff just sits there on the shelf. And then
Yeah,
I
yeah.
started getting into like programming for it, and really getting into it, really getting into like getting them online and modifying them and stuff like that. And now I have, I don't know, half a dozen of them at least. I can't remember how many of them I have now, but I got
Yeah.
into it.
So you've been publishing stuff about these on Twitter, including here's something about the 200LX.
Yeah,
You
so that is
doing
that's when I
BBS
got
on it?
my yeah, that's when I got my 200LX online and connected to a bulletin board. So
Wow.
you can connect to like old school BBSs via Telnet. So
Oh,
I
I
got
was
hooked
just gonna
on.
ask, because
Yeah,
like, we didn't really have ubiquitous Wi-Fi back then. It was still
exactly.
like
So
you had to have a
yeah,
yeah.
like I had these things back then, but what I had back then was like a modem, and like I didn't really use it. Like, what am I going to send a fax to somebody? Like, I had the stuff, but I didn't use it on this thing, because I guess I had a real computer, and like there was not a huge motivation I mean, you could like theoretically check email real quick and then get off and stuff like that, but
Mm.
I didn't really use the online functionality back then. But so 20 years later or whatever it is, I figured out how to hook a Ethernet card up on one of these
Wow.
things, and like started going crazy online, and experiencing it like it was 1990 whatever. It's great.
Yes, 1990, whatever. uh, yeah. Look at this. I love what you say about it being sort of a comfort food kind
Yeah.
of thing. What's going on in this one?
Yeah, so that is Saturday morning debug. That is because the my favorite thing about developing for these things is, 2022 development is like, I'm trying to do a thing, I write a bit of code, it doesn't work, I search for what the error was, Stack Overflow gives me the answer, and
Mm,
like that's
that's it.
that's how development is today. It's like very very online, very much like
Mm.
you find the answer instantly. I have props. I have many props. One of them
Yes.
is so believe it or not, this is like how you write code for these things. And
Yes.
when I was however old, I don't know, like a little kid, I actually sent away to HP, sent them
Wow.
$80 for this book, right? And it's just all just, what DOS interrupt code does this or whatever. Like I
Wow.
didn't know what the hell I was doing back then. I wrote some stuff in like basic or fourth or something back then. I played with it a little bit back then, but now it's like I can go back to all these toys that I used to have and like master them and write programs for my Palmtops and my Gameboys and stuff like that. And it's just like the coolest, the things that were like this amazing piece of technology you couldn't understand back
Mm.
then. Now it's just like, okay, let me figure out how to program for this thing tonight and start writing out or whatever.
Man, I always kind of wish that the pocket chip had become more of a thing. It
Yeah.
seems like it has a lot of that same cachet that, like, when I was a kid, I was absolutely fascinated with tiny
Yes.
little handheld computers, and I feel like that
Exactly.
really sort of got me into
Exactly.
this.
Every pocket chip, every keyboard featherwing. I mean, my
I
special.
first wrote code on a TI-83 Plus, and, like, I feel like there's something about, like, having a little computer in your hands and having it be a little playground that you can kinda take around with you that
Absolutely.
really
Yeah.
makes it, like
My special trick is that whatever item you say, I can just like pull one out of thin air. Obviously,
Yeah.
I've got the pocket chip. I got 10 other things of this form factor because anything that anyone makes like this, I have to have it because I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the thing with the Palmtop is like I said, a lot of people didn't have a computer at home necessarily, and they for sure didn't have a portable computer. And here I
Mm.
am wandering around, taking notes and balancing my pocket money or whatever in Quicken and like all this.
What? Cool.
I was pretty obsessed with it.
I love this. And so you've created this site, Palmtop.dev, which you say is kind of like a fake documentation site. It seems to me like a real documentation site. It's just like
very
you
real
put it
document.
together.
It's very real documentation. My approach to these things is I can't just have a thing and appreciate a thing. My approach is like I have to go completely crazy on it and modify it, write code for it, make a
Of course.
website, create a movement about it. Like thing, I have to go full on it. So this website is my like imaginary like if this was like a modern piece of technology that people cared about and they wanted to write an app, this is like how to do that. And I
Wow.
don't think that those people exist, but maybe they'll see this and we'll find out that they do. But really it's just for me for fun. But what it was is if you click on those top links at the on the HP95,
Mhm.
this is what I always do. I start, researching this stuff,
Oh my gosh.
and then I'm like, well, it needs a wiki. Let's start doing a wiki just in case like anyone else wants to see the stuff. And it's like, well, how are people going to find the wiki? I mean, it needs a website. And then it's like,
Uh-huh.
well, this isn't really this is a blog post, so that needs a blog. And that's where, if you scroll down a little bit, you see the stuff about I figured out how to get it online, so I blogged about it. I figured out how to do the upgrades, so I blogged about it.
Mm.
And that's just how I relate to things. I don't know how to do anything except for that. Can't just
Well,
enjoy things.
I think you are enjoying it though.
Yeah.
And I think that, you say that you don't think anyone else is going to use it necessarily, but I think that a lot of people are interested in just reading about how this stuff works.
Hopefully.
Even if they're not going to go out and like buy one themselves, it's just
Yeah.
like fascinating to read about how the systems work and stuff.
Yeah.
So cool. And yeah, this is that same photo from before, but it's a photo of if anyone's listening later on, it's a photo. Can you describe it actually for us?
So
Yeah.
that's like the motherboard of this device. And the other thing that I've been doing in parallel with my comfort food development exploration is I've been reading the HP Palmtop paper. This was like the magazine for these things
Ooh.
back in the day, and I've been going through and reading them, in order. And that was actually part of my deal to myself about the 200LX. I actually forced myself to go through and read all these in chronological order, and I wasn't allowed to buy the 200LX until it came out in December.
You are a master of self-control.
Right. So anyway, so you read that. So maybe there's a small community for these things now, but back then, like, this was the community for these things, and you read
Wow.
about all these things in here, and they're like, oh, somebody's figured out how to do this, or here's this new product or whatever. So then you go on eBay and you're like, so this like, so they're like, oh, look, you can get a wireless card, and you can get, it's basically
Wow.
like a pager for your Palmtop or whatever. I'm like, all right, let me figure out how could we do that, in 2022. So I would like to get into. I haven't yet, but I don't know. I don't know if people are familiar with PCMCA cards, but those are the little, I'll call them sort of cartridges that these things use. Like in your Nintendo, you have a little cartridge. These have these PCMCA cards. This one is an SRAM card. So this is a battery backed card that you put in there, and it gives you more storage. But then you can also use more modern, compact flash cards and things like that. But the where I was going with all this was, they talk about, like, in the magazine it'll be like, someone in Japan has figured out how to double speed the Palmtop, and you read the article, and then I go online and find out, how do I get this crystal, how do I get this whatever. And so that's what that picture was, to make a short story long, was modifications,
So did
because
your version?
you could buy the versions that I have are 2 meg. You could buy 1, 2, or 4 meg of RAM, but all they are inside is just like a different card sitting on there that gives you a little bit more memory. And so you can solder those headers on, put the RAM on, and it just recognizes it like it came from the factory like that. And same with the crystal. It's just, you just swap in a different crystal, and now it's twice as fast. And because I was writing code on these things and compiling it, it was taking like 3 minutes to compile. And so I wanted it to be faster, and so I, doubled the speed on it, and my dev cycle much faster.
Nice, nice. And I already know there's other people who are interested in this because you tagged another account, the
Sure.
HP95LX channel, which is
Yeah.
run by someone else. So
Yeah.
don't even
There's
act like no one's into this.
yeah. There is a Facebook group. I don't use Facebook really, so I'm not on there much. But there's definitely a Facebook group, and I'm involved in, like a local retro group. But everyone's into different stuff. Like a lot of people into like
Right.
old Apples or Commodores or whatever. And I'm like the Palmtop obsessed person.
You're also into Game Boys,
This is
as
true.
is shown on here. Tell us what's going on in this photo.
Yeah, so that is my modded Game Boy, and I have it here, and we
That
can
light is
hear.
incredible.
Yeah, that's one of the first things you want to do with a Game Boy, is you want to modify the backlight so that you can
So
actually
pretty.
see what's going on. Same with the Palmtops. The Palmtops are really hard to see because none of them had backlighting or anything like that. It was just too expensive, too battery intense, and everything. And so everything was monochrome, and you had to be sitting under a bright light for it.
Woo!
So this is my one of my modded Game Boys. It's got the backlight. It's got the Pro Sound mod, because one of the things I use this for is making music,
Mm-hmm.
and the headphone output on a Game Boy is not the best, so you bypass it and put in your own output, is what that is. I don't know if I have a ton of other mods on here, but what is on here, if we can kind of see it, is a very simple kind of Hello World program written in assembly language.
Ah, cool.
And it's just like, draw a sprite, move it around, and that's kind of it. But so I've
I'm
been,
gonna assume those are aftermarket keys on there. Is that right?
yeah, these little buttons and stuff. That's
No,
all.
nineties.
This is modded
And the
print, but this
photo.
isn't even. Let me grab a different one. That's, well, here's something in progress. One day I'll finish this one, but this is like, the potential.
Oh yeah.
I just need to actually get around to putting, to opening up this and smashing it into here, and
Taking a beige
and
one,
doing a
putting in
bunch
your,
of other mods.
is that,
But yeah,
what would you call that? Teal, yellow, and magenta gradient and splatter patterns.
teal, yellow, and with
Amazing.
magenta splatters, and bunch of switches, and
Oh yeah. What are
yeah.
all the different switches on there?
I mean, whatever you want. They're not wired to anything yet. I think it might be. So there's a potentiometer on here, so you can change your backlight intensity, I think, is one
Oh,
of
nice.
them. I can't remember what the. Yeah, I can't. That's what this is on the one side, is a backlight potentiometer. the Switch, I can't actually remember what that's supposed to be, but it'll be something one day. There's the Pro Sound mod to bypass and get clean audio.
Ooh, good stuff. Yeah, speaking of which, are you using the LSDJ cartridge or some other
Absolutely.
systems?
So I had the other cartridge in there just because I was
Oh
showing
yeah, look at it.
the my programming skills or whatever. I mean, I didn't even write that code. That's just an assembly example. But absolutely, LSDJ. And I brought another thing that I thought you might like. So I don't know if you're familiar with. So this is
Oh, camera.
this is the analog pocket, which is like Game Boy for 2022 or whatever.
Oh,
But yeah, I've got the camera on there, and
that's
but
super
what I wanted to
cute.
share, I don't know if you've seen this, is people are still writing games for this platform in 2022, and I thought you might enjoy this one. It is Game Boy Camera Gallery, and it is a bunch of artists who all submitted artwork for this game, and it's kind of like a Pokemon style or whatever kind of top down. It's not loading for some reason. That's good. It just got. I was gonna put it on this device just because it's easier to see, but maybe
Mm.
try it on the Game Boy real quick.
And while you're setting that up, just
Yeah,
in case people don't know, LSDJ stands for Little Sound DJ,
yeah.
ostensibly, and it's just a wonderful little thing that you can get and put on a cartridge. And ah,
That's actually showing up better than I thought. The the backlight makes it really hard to see what's happening on
I
this
wonder
thing.
if you like tilt it forward a little bit. It seemed to work a little
Yeah,
better
I'm just
that
gonna
way.
I'm just gonna load my game real quick because then we
Ooh,
can actually
yeah.
like look around real quick. So, yeah, this is not the best, but
Mm.
can I move back? Can I move
Is that a
invertedly?
claw game?
What's that?
Is that a claw game? It looks like a claw game.
No, no, it's like the kind of game where you just walk around
Oh,
like a
cool. Yeah.
Pokemon game or whatever.
Little
But then
dungeon
what it
crawler.
is you go look at a piece of art, and then you can
Oh.
see the art full screen. So this is a Pikachu looking in a mirror or something, and
Ah,
so yeah, uh, Game Boy Camera Gallery 2022. You can buy it on this artist's website.
that's
Um,
great.
it's really good.
Let me pull that up. Game Boy Comic Gallery.
Oh, wow.
By
Here's what
Scratching
happened with
Post
the
Studio.
other.
Ooh.
I don't know if you can see this, but here's how we're doing on the other device. So maybe yeah.
It's a Kernel Panic.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
All right.
Uh, run game. And explore a cute virtual gallery filled with artistic photos taken on the Game Boy camera by over
And
2 dozen
yeah, you
photographers.
can play it in the browser. You can play it in the browser,
That's
or
so
just look at the game.
cute.
I guess. Yeah.
I don't know if I can figure out the keys. Oh, we
It's
got a
very
Loz bit
intuitive,
going
like
on.
arrow keys in space. It's
Yeah, there we go.
whatever you think it
Okay,
is. It's probably that.
I will spend some time with that later.
Nothing is working today
Oh
on this.
no!
I was gonna do LSDJ, but apparently I'm not.
Curses. Well, in the meantime, I noticed also that in your environment there, you have a magazine called BPM, I think, which I'm gonna guess is referring to beats per minute, and you have a little turntable there with an Aphex Twin logo on it. You
Wow.
seem to do a fair amount of music stuff, no?
I do. I do. There's all kinds of music stuff in the background. I think there's
Oh yeah, yeah. Look at those MIDI controllers and such.
yeah.
Oh, is that an OP1?
There's the OP1 here, and there's the
Yeah.
MPC here, and this is a Roland SB808, which is kind of like an old-fashioned MPC. And turntables are back here. There's a keyboard back there somewhere, but I don't know if we can see it.
Sometimes, so I don't feel like I've experienced any of your music. Do you ever put music out on the internet or?
Only to punish myself.
Aw.
I will like put something on SoundCloud because like I'm mad at myself for not finishing it, and I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna put this on here if you don't do something with it. And so yeah, most of my stuff is like self-torture publication.
What kind of well, I would guess that you're into electronic stuff and maybe chip tunes and type of things. Any
Precisely.
favorite
Yeah.
artists?
Favorite artists? Oh,
Hmm.
I should have prepared for this. I'm just gonna think of like what I've been listening to today. So I was listening to actually on this turntable right now it's Anna Managuchi, which I know is a
Oh,
common common interest.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Well,
With
I
the
guess
sweet
Apex
looking record.
is on the other one. Favorite artist, I am not sure. I have so many I can't pick.
That is all right.
Yeah.
We can come back to it. Or not. So yeah, we talked about Game Boy stuff. You've published a bunch of projects on Hackster, and I thought it would be fun to go through some of these.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that you have done a bunch of retro tech stuff, you've also, well, all kinds of new things too.
Yeah.
I only just noticed One Way Willie. This is great. But for example, we've got to look at the one with the baby with the laser eyes.
Yeah.
So tell us about this. Babble, a baby monitor powered by Tiny ML and Edge Impulse. What's the deal with this?
Yes. So I'm a Edge Impulse ambassador, and so I create projects that show off their latest tech and stuff. And so this is one of the first ones I did. I think
Yeah, this is from a while
this is
ago.
okay. This is the one without the laser eyes. Cool. So this is one of the first ones. So yeah, it was just wanted to do something with audio, and I was trying to think what would be interesting. I think the first thing that occurred to me, I was like, because I'm just going to do stuff to do with my interests. I'm like, what about something that could tell different F1 engines apart or something? And I think maybe I started working on that and it wasn't
Oh.
easy or something. So I was like, wait a second, I've got an idea. And so when I have a 3-year-old and I also have a 13-year-old, and when my 13-year-old was little, stuff was like, normal things. But when my 3-year-old was born, now everything has Alexa in it. It's like, oh, it's
Oh.
Alexa. Oh, it's a baby bottle, but it it's a Fitbit. It monitors your like everything's gone crazy.
Huh.
So we don't have any of that stuff, but it would be kind of interesting to make my own one. And so the problem with baby monitors is they're just triggered by like a volume threshold.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is
Right.
a noise outside, or if there is some other bump in the night or whatever, that will trigger it. It's got nothing to do with the baby crying or not. And so I thought
Mm.
it'd be an interesting application of machine learning to only detect the crying and only alert you if there is crying, and not for every single little noise all night long. So
Nice.
where that came from. And then yeah, the laser eyes version was that was
I
when
noticed that.
Impulse brought out their kind of automatic tuning capabilities, and you can see the stats if you scroll down. But it like
Yeah.
improved the percentage from 80 something to 90 something with like one click or whatever
Nice.
it says there.
Wow. Yeah, at the top it says that originally it was
Yeah.
86.3%, and then somewhere in the 90s, perhaps.
Yeah.
I'm not finding it right now, but maybe someone else will. Yeah, of course, all these things that I'm bringing up are linked in the description below, or you can find them from David's profiles elsewhere. You can just click on your profile here.
Which is
Oh yeah,
ishotjr, which I don't think we got to.
before we get off the subject of retro tech, you've got to explain your avatar to us.
Yeah, so my guy there. So basically, when I was getting into, I went to school for computer science. I am a experienced software developer. But when I started getting into hardware, I like wanted to have a separate identity. I didn't want like my mistakes to be associated with my name or something. I don't know.
Ah,
So I had a bunch of different domain names, and I just like went through all these domain names, like which one should I use for my like new identity? And I chose ishotjr, which is from an Irish TV show called Father Ted. And
oh, I didn't realize that was where it's from.
yeah. So the local crazy guy Tom just is in one scene. He just has a T-shirt on that says ishotjr. I just thought it was the funniest thing. I've never seen the TV show Dallas. I don't think like it's obviously his T-shirt is related to that, but that's not my,
Oh,
it's not. I'm
I
not a
also
big
have
Dallas
not
fan or
seen that
anything.
show.
So that's where the
I
name
love
came
Father
from.
Ted though.
Yeah.
There's
That's where
one
the name.
particular one.
Yeah,
If people want to get a taste of it, there's one clip about a spider baby, and
Spider
it's just
Baby. Yeah. So
classic.
this stream should have
And my
been
lovely
yesterday,
voice.
which is July the 19th, and July the 19th is the most important day on the Father Ted calendar. So
What?
we missed it by a day. If it would have been on the regularly scheduled Tuesday, then we would have been having it on July 19th. But that's
Why is
okay.
that a single day for Father's Head?
There was just an episode where July the 19th came up, and they fixated on that as Father's Head Day.
I could
It's
see
on my
that
Twitter
happening.
if you look at it there. But
Okay, I will.
so none of that has anything to do with Avatar. That's just the name. And then separately, I just wanted, my whole thing was like, I'm behind a mask, I'm hiding, it's another identity.
Mm.
And so this is from a Nintendo game that my brother and I used to play when we were little. And I would always be this guy, which is Starman. He's Mexican wrestler, a luchador. And so he has like the full face mask. And I always really liked this guy. And if it was Mario, if it was Zelda, if it was whatever, like that's not interesting. Like no one would think that was unique. But this is a rare enough thing that not enough people are aware of. That like I was basically able to kind of co-opt it as me instead of people being like, oh, that's that thing from whatever that video game is. Like occasionally people recognize it, but I think like a handful of people have said that they recognize it, and in general, I've stolen it as my own identity.
It must make it extra special when someone recognizes that out of the blue.
Yeah, it's cool, but it's also good that they don't, because like I said, if it was just like something super mainstream, then that wouldn't be a very interesting avatar for me.
Yeah, not very distinctive.
Yeah.
So there's another thing in here that is inspired by a video game. One really, it seems, is inspired by Mega Man.
Yeah, so I don't know what stuff you can see in the background, but I'm very much into Mega Man. And Mega Man is a robot that was created he was created as like a home assistant robot, but then some stuff went down, and so Dr. Light, his sort of roboticist dad, upgraded him to like save the world or whatever. So I've always been, and the whole thing about Mega Man is you beat the guy and then you get the guy's power that you just beat, right? And so Mega Man can kind of turn into anything. And so I've always been into Mega Man. I don't know if there's so much Mega Man stuff in here, but it's all right here and right here, so you can't see it. But let me just give you an idea. There's like stuff like this is everywhere. This is Woodman, and just like everywhere in my office is Mega Man.
I believe it.
So Dr.
You
Light,
got some Pokemon stuff there too. That one over your left shoulder.
There's other stuff, but like
Pikachu, of course.
If I was gonna get a tattoo or something, it would be like a Mega Man head. That's like my number one thing is Mega Man. And so yeah, I just think Dr. Light is kind of awesome because he makes all these robots, and they're mostly like just useful robots that do useful things. But I try to channel my inner Dr. Light a little bit sometimes when I'm working on these robot ideas.
So tell us about this one. What is One Way Willie?
So this was for a contest, a Hackster contest, which is something I participate in quite a bit. It was an Arduino sponsored contest. You had to use that MKR Wi-Fi board, and so the idea of the bot was, so this was like nearish to the beginning of the pandemic, I think, like the first several months of the pandemic, maybe.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the theme of the contest. And one thing, I don't know if people remember this, but near the beginning of the pandemic, people were figuring out how stuff should be. And it used to be when you're at the grocery store, the aisles would be one way only, because that way you don't get people like crossing each other. We didn't know how it worked back then. And that was just like, well, if everyone goes this way, then they're not going to be breathing on each other or whatever. And so I made this little robot, and obviously he's not full human scale. He's just a prototype. But it was just
probably better that way if he like does this kind of a face at you and goes, what does this sound like? Can you emulate it for us?
I just tore him. I had to tear him apart the other day. I was working on another. Basically, I've reclaimed his body for another robot project. And
as you do.
I tore one of the pads off of his board, and I've been trying to reflash the. I was trying to reflash the firmware. I bricked this thing. I was trying to reflash the firmware, and then I tore off one of the pads in that process. So he's he's decommissioned right now. But yeah, he made a very unpleasant like noise. If you like, at first he's just like cool. Oh yeah, there's a video of it. Can it load?
There we go.
I just wanted to give a quick demo of a prototype version of One Way Willie. This is not the final case, but I wanted to show you how he works. Right now, we are far away enough that he is.
Let's skip forward and see if we can get him angry.
Yeah. Yeah. At this point, he's become worried. He makes a more annoying noise in order to discourage our approach. Yeah, the focus isn't great, but basically he's really angry. Oh god, he gets really angry. So it gets like a little warning one, and then it just gets like crazy annoying one. So that you hopefully be annoyed enough that you don't want to violate the one-way rule.
I can totally see kids, or even honestly even someone like me, like just coming up intentionally to upset because I know it's not a real animal. It's like fun to upset robots.
Yeah, well, I've repurposed his body, his chassis is somewhere around here because I just wanted to use him as like a general desk bot that he could just live on my desk and be a friend, but I can't see where he went. He's around here somewhere. I don't know where.
We talk a fair bit offline or online, but you know, in other circumstances about companion bots.
Yeah.
And I know that you've built some interesting robots of various types, including some that went in your garden. Is that right?
Oh, so I thought you were gonna say this, but sure.
Well, that one, and also weren't you working on a flying pig?
Flying pig, yeah, he's in limbo right now, but just because this one's handy, let me share this one.
This one and Rocco should be friends, or Nicola.
Yeah. So this is my companion Softbot, minimum viable cat right now. My friend Carrie Up and Glow made like crochet. Oh no, actually her mom crocheted the cat pattern, and I've got a bunch more cat parts down here for when I get to this part. There's legs and arms and bodies and things in here.
Oh wow!
But right now, and I didn't think to set him up for this, but they, I don't know what his gender is or if he has one, but it does sort of like a little head tilting thing, like when it gets bored, and it does a little purring thing. Actually, I guess here's what goes inside the cat when it's not all torn apart.
And I have a couple boards to send you for that.
That's right. So yeah, here's my buzzer, and there's a servo in here that's doing the head movement. And I originally wrote it in Arduino. I had it all working in Arduino, and then I've rewritten the whole thing in CircuitPython because the idea is, to make this something that people can make themselves, and we thought CircuitPython might be more accessible.
Nice.
Because if you are someone who's into electronics, but doesn't know how to crochet and stuff like that, then you could just maybe buy the crocheting pieces and then put them together. Or if you're someone who's the other way around, into crocheting but doesn't know electronics, the idea is that like it might be a gateway to kind of bridge those two communities and get people interested in different things.
Yeah, so CircuitPython would be a nice entry.
Yeah.
Oh, well, this is my recent robot, Nicola, and it's so funny how like they're both. I know that yours is going to be like a full-fledged one eventually. Mine is just like going to stay squiddy, and like I feel like they should be friends. Mine's lost in
the temporary body of the camera stand is excellent.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Plus, you can stick it in your little pocket and take it on trips, and it can stick out of your bag and stuff. I think it's honestly kind of great. There's another thing that people are
what did it end up being called? I can't remember what.
Nicola, because it's based on the Arduino Nicola Vision. And Nikola Tesla is cool. We likewise we're building similar robots, and also everyone is like mentioning that of course all the blue hair around. Yours is actually bluer than mine right now, so I feel like you're the one doing the channel.
It is, yeah. It's doing okay at the moment.
It's good stuff. It's a good haircut. Everyone, if you want to be a real nerd, you gotta get this haircut. It's the rules. No, nerds look like everything. It's fine. Um, yeah. Where was it going with this?
I lost where we were.
We
Companion
were
bot,
talking about companion bots.
active
Oh yeah, tell us
projects. Yeah.
about your other ones. You've got your you were doing the garden ones and the piggy and
Oh, the
stuff.
garden. Yeah. So the garden ones. So I'm working on. Um, I wanted. I needed a. I've been trying to come up with a way to kind of demonstrate a bunch of different technologies, and I was trying to
Mm.
brainstorm like what an interesting way to do that might be. Um, and so I came up with this garden menagerie, and
Mm.
it's basically a bunch of networked or not necessarily networked, but collaborative in various ways creatures. And they are all to do with kind of, I mean, I guess they're not all to do with gardening, but they all are intended to live outside. And so I'm talking about this like it exists. I have, one or two of these in prototype stages. I have a LoRa based what do you call? There's different words for this animal. You have to tell me which one you call it. I
Hmm.
call it a roly poly.
Oh,
Other
yeah,
people
I
call
call
it
it that
a
too.
bug. Different
People
words
call
like
them pill bugs, yeah, or oh, not yet,
that.
or
Working
I think they're kind of like land isopod, like I don't know
exactly.
though.
So I'm working on a land isopod, which is a very simple temperature sensor with a LoRa radio that reports that temperature data. And right now that is raspberry. Yeah, there he is. Pill bugs. That's the other word that I can think of. Yeah, pill bug, pinch bug, roly poly.
Pink bug. The stuff
Yeah,
you find under logs in the woods.
yeah. And so the reason I thought that
I love
that'd
that
be
idea.
a good body for this particular one is if you 3D print those pieces, you can make it kind of arbitrarily as long as you want. And
Oh yeah.
I don't know how big it's going to be yet, so I can just have like different segments of however it is. Like right now, it's a Raspberry Pi 4, but I want to get it down to a Raspberry Pi 0 2 wireless.
Ooh.
So that's the first one that is actually like a thing that is starting to exist. But eventually, I want to have a whole menagerie, hence the garden menagerie of.
Mm.
So, for example, a butterfly with solar powered wings, which feeds into
Oh, I
a
love that.
which feeds into a snail that is a big battery, which
Oh, I love
to a caterpillar whose legs are actually little irrigation
that.
soil sensors. Yeah, so I've got like a dozen animals planned
Oh
and like one and a half that actually exist, and it's not very impressive right now. But the main thing was I wanted to explore these technologies. I wanted to have an excuse to play with LoRa, and
my
so
gosh.
they're
Hmm.
all going to be communicating with LoRa. I wanted to do some solar stuff. I wanted to, try a bunch of different boards and see like how each one is interesting and what the advantages of this over that are and stuff like that. And so by having all these different animals, it lets me have lots of different, you know, um, mini ideas instead of like one complicated. Like I have like a Raspberry Pi weather station that's just it's a Raspberry Pi because that's all you need, and it's got all the stuff plugged into the Raspberry Pi and like cool, but that's super boring. It's just like an ugly weather station, and so I'm tearing the weather station apart and taking each individual piece off of that, and that becomes its own separate animal basically.
Yes.
And then
And
yeah,
and the roly poly design is so genius because they're like it's a sort of scaled animal like these pangolins that you see,
yeah,
these designs of dragons that you see where they're like it's the perfect way to do an articulated creature
yeah.
with 3D printing.
Yeah. And my 3D, my design skill. I mean, another part of this project is to, engage myself in all these different disciplines and stuff like that. Like, I'm not an amazing 3D designer, and so part of it is like to force myself to have to do a bunch of different weird shapes and stuff like that, and learn about how to do that. So
Mm.
yeah,
And so you're trying to test out a bunch of different platforms and sort of demonstrate those with this menagerie. And Jessica asks, "Hello, Jessica from Hackster." It feels like you're all-knowing when it comes to developer ecosystems. What community platforms do you suggest people follow or join? Any upcoming events you're looking forward to?
Well, since Jessica
Big
asked that
questions.
question, I'm particularly fond of Hackster. Is definitely a platform that I really like. I also feel as though I am obligated to also mention that Make has a excellent community platform that you should
Mhm.
also check out. But yeah, I think I'm in so many different communities I don't even know because I have lots of different interests, like we've been discussing, and yeah, I think Hackster is definitely like a big one for me. I definitely try and post my projects on there. Um, and I'm in like a bunch of individual discords, and I just tend to sort of find friends in different areas of interest and either join or create little communities around the things that I'm into. So I guess my best answer is almost kind of like the ones you make yourself because you're excited is my favorite. That tends to be my approach to things, is to just like you know make stuff happen because I'm really into something.
Hey,
um,
everyone hit up David about the HP palm tops because you've been saying that you don't feel like anyone else is interested in them, and I feel like this is totally a place where people would love to connect with you on it.
Upcoming events. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I've, I feel like the movement of everything online has actually been a boon for me because I, can't often travel and stuff because I have family obligations, and so when things started moving online, I was able to attend a lot more things. Like,
Yeah.
I've never been to SuperCon, but I've attended all the Remoticons and all those things like that. So um, yeah, I'm not sure what particular events I'm excited about. I guess I would be excited for SuperCon if I thought I might be able to go, which I have not broached the subject of yet. But things like that, I'm definitely excited about, and but mostly just smaller friend groups that are excited about the things that I'm excited about.
Yeah. And speaking of communities and Make, of course, it's right down there in the bar here. Because you're the community editor now. Tell us about that. How did that come about? If you can share, I don't know.
I can
What do you
I
like
can
about it? And
Yeah,
what does it entail?
I can definitely share. I I've only been there about 2 months, so I can only tell you what I know so far. Uh, Thanks, Jason. So yeah, I guess the short version of getting a job at Make was I a friend told me kind of about the opportunity, and like I don't have a resume. I've never had a resume, and so I kind of ignored it. I was like, I don't feel like making a resume. Like I'm not. It's not something that I'd have to put a lot of
Mm.
effort into it, whatever. So I didn't really look at it for a little while, and then a week later, I looked at the thing. It was on LinkedIn, and it said, and it was like one click application. I was like, okay, okay, I could do that. Cool. It wanted you to send a resume. And so
Dun, dun,
I just made a
dun.
blank PDF that said, I don't have a resume. I don't have a resume. Have a look at this website I made instead.
Hmm.
And I can't remember if it was that night or the next morning, but like not long after, um, Dale followed me on Twitter. And I
Uh,
was like, oh my God, Dale followed me on Twitter. And like, that was cool enough. That was fine. I was happy there. Um, and I was so excited about that I screenshotted like Dale following me on Twitter because I'm that lame. But while I was taking that
Oh
screenshot,
man, you gotta celebrate your wins.
while I was taking that screenshot, another message popped up, which was Dale DM'd you. I was like,
Ooh.
okay, what is this? And Dale's like, hey, can you talk? Can you do Zoom or something? I was like, sure. When? He's like, today. I was like, sure.
Oh my.
And so the rest was, I interviewed, and I had a bunch of interviews, And at the beginning of the interviews, I felt like I was being interviewed. And after the first couple interviews, it felt way less like an interview and more about like, here's the technical aspects of working here and what you need to know. And I was like, so wait, I like did I get the job or what's going on? Like, and then at the end of all that, it was confirmed that I did get the job. And
Hey.
so yeah, so that's me now, and I'm still trying to figure out what it means overall, honestly. But in general, the kind of things I do is, as an editor, I work with authors, I find authors, I help them develop their projects, or their written articles for the magazine, and edit them, and push them from a sort of a sketchy Word document into a final print piece. And I do some writing myself in the magazine and on the website. And that extra community word in there is all these little groups and all these events that I pulled together, and all that stuff. I guess that's kind of the community part, is that I'm in the community, and I'm on the ground and among the maker community, as opposed to just somebody observing and from a distance,
Yeah.
and sharing their observations. For me, it's just like, hey, Alex is working on this cool thing, check it out. Because I was talking to her yesterday, she showed me this thing. And so yeah, yes, my projects are my resume. In fact, again, let's plug it. I mean, my Hackster profile is my
Yeah.
resume. And yeah,
You got so much cool stuff on here. I gotta bring it back to this. Speaking
yeah,
of, you've
this is
got so much other cool stuff that I do want to get to as well.
yeah.
But let's
You got
just
a
talk
couple
about this
minutes,
really,
yeah,
really, really quickly. Okay, so
yeah.
tell us about this one.
This is a good
Like,
one, just for personal reasons, because this was using the Matrix board, which I know you're a fan of and can turn around and grab off of your shelf.
yeah.
And also just this event, what was it called? The ARM AIoT event,
Right.
where I met the Matrix team, and I also met you. And so that's this project has kind of a special a special thing for me because of that. But yeah, this was the idea that, as much as I said that your baby bottle's got Alexa in it and stuff like that, there's not necessarily the same advancement in technology of toys. I mean, yes, everything makes noise now, but like there's so much tech that they could be using. And so my idea was I put NFC tags in all these different shapes, and then
Nice.
this little guy here, which was just like a cheap stuffed animal. I don't know if he's like a real character or what, but I just got like a cheap stuffed animal, tore him open, and
Cute
shoved the
little guy.
Matrix board in there, and then put these NFC tags and stuff on here. And so he asks you to like put a square on him and stuff like that, and he knows what the shape is because of the NFC tags, and he tells you you're right, or
checking out my video.
various things like that.
Name this project.
Yeah, skip forward. Let's see me picking up a shape or whatever. Yeah, and yeah, this is just a cool one because the Matrix board is so cool. It can do so much, and the Matrix team was just amazing. And like, I'm still friends with everyone from that now. And
Yeah. And I just realized that we're trying to make this a little bit more audio friendly and non-visual. So for anyone who is curious, we're talking about this project that David published called Itsy Itty Cat. Is that what you call it?
exactly.
Itty Cat.
Yeah.
ITYCATT. I'll teach your child 1,000 things. It's got a nice ring to it. I love it. And it's this little, it's fuzzy. I wouldn't say furry, but a little fuzzy white stuffed animal with some little beady eyes and like a light at the top that changes color when it interacts with you. It's got a little smile on its face. It's very cute. And you've got these little colored shapes, multicolored shapes in front of it, and that's where you put the NFC tags. Is that right?
You put the NFC on his head. You put those things. He says, he says, give me the square.
Yeah.
You put the square on his head, or if you put something that isn't the square on his head, he knows that that's not the right one because he's got them all recognized by NFC.
Yeah, so they've got tags in them, and then the reader on the Matrix board. That's got to be the Matrix creator, right? The big one.
It's the big one. Yeah. which
Oh,
is
it's right here. Duh. I'm so clever. I can tell which one it is. But like, the whole point of the instructions is to make that stuff very clear. Okay. I do totally want to make sure that we get to your
this is
Rebel work,
another
and
good
also
one.
this is not Rebel, but this is Pebble. But
This is not Rebel. This is when Pebble was still in business. They had a hackathon,
smartwatch.
and I was obsessed with Pebble, which is part of the theme of me being obsessed with things that you may have noticed. And so I used to, spend all my nights and weekends hacking on Pebble stuff. And then they announced this smart strap functionality when they did their Pebble Time Kickstarter. And I was like, oh my God, one of my favorite things, Pebble and Arduino. And now I can like combine those.
Oh
And the
yeah.
Pebble stuff is awesome because, the reason that I like the kind of Arduino Raspberry Pi stuff is that you can actually kind of touch it and it exists outside of a screen,
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a screen, but it lives on your body, and as opposed to just like a website or an
It
app or
sounds so
whatever.
creepy when you say that.
Well,
It's a
my
screen,
point
but it
is,
lives on your body.
it's more
It would probably like
interactive and like in the real universe instead of like locked inside this screen universe.
Yeah.
And so, so when I found out that you're going to be able to do Arduino stuff on your Pebble, my friend and I, we have a group here in Michigan called Hack Dads, which is a bunch of dads that like to hack on stuff like this. So me and my friend were like, we don't care where this thing is, like we're going to go to this hackathon. And so we flew to Boulder and did this hackathon, and we won it. And
Nice.
it was my first
Congrats.
exposure to Hackster, because one of the requirements of the project was you had to publish your project on Hackster. And I was like, I don't know what this Hackster thing is, but fine, I'll put my project on there. And then, I started getting like these weird emails from Hackster about like, why don't you enter this contest? And I'm like, I don't know what that is, but sure, let me see what that is. And then you can see all the contests I entered from there and stuff. So, the plan worked. But so our project was, so we're from Michigan, not very mountainous, but we're in Boulder, and we're all like getting like altitude sickness because it's so much higher than we are.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we thought it'd be funny to do an altimeter, so you could see how high you are on your Pebble, because that's something you can't do just by writing software. You need some external hardware. And so we got an altimeter breakout board and teensy and strapped it on the strap there. And ours was the only project, like in the finals at least, that was wearable. Like other people were walking up to the thing, they're like, here's my smartwatch, but it's like a tray of parts and like on it. And we actually managed to get it like, fully mobile, and like I don't want those little, header pins sticking in me or whatever, but it was at least like a
It looks like they
reasonable.
phased out. Actually, they've got an additional sort of defensive
Yeah.
aspect to them.
we actually
It's an
we
advantage.
3D printed a cover for it, but it was kind of bulky, so I don't think we put it on there. It might be on there somewhere, but yeah. So that was my first Hackster thing at the Pebble Hackathon.
Yeah, I mean, 7 years later, we still have a lot of trouble slimming down smartwatches. Smartwatches have been kind of having like a big moment, and like you see a lot of really cool ones, but also like I think there was one a while back that we put on the blog or something that was like huge, and it's just a matter of like, we don't have a manufacturing facility and like a team of engineers where people are doing this for fun, and so it's harder. Yeah. So one of my favorite things to come out of the whole Rebel situation, obviously they got bought by Fitbit, who just kind of like cannibalized their technology and like dumped them. But then the community sort of came together to revitalize and keep these things out of the landfills, keep them alive, basically, which I love.
Yeah.
Tell us about your involvement with this.
Sure. So at the event, they had a lot of Pebble developer relations people. And so I got to meet the developer relations team at Pebble. And at that point, before that, I'd been hacking on Pebble all the time on my own, not on my own, in the community, but like as an independent person, I guess. And then once I got hooked up with the developer relations team, it was a lot more like, collaborative with the actual entity of Pebble. And so, like when a new watch comes out or before a new watch comes out, they would like send me the new watch so I can like already have written apps for it so that when they launch it, there's some apps. And
oh, nice.
And I used to organize local meetups for Pebble developers, and we'd have like as many as 20 people hanging out and talking about Pebble stuff. And so I got really plugged into their like developer universe, and got really involved in that. And so I don't know what the exact timeline was as far as when that hackathon was, but I went to the next hackathon that I could find, which was in Ottawa. So me and a friend drove 10 hours north to Ottawa for the next hackathon. And it was a bit weird because there was nobody from Pebble there. And there's supposed to be 2 Pebble people there, but they didn't show up. And it was because they got their plans kind of canceled at the last minute because Pebble just laid off 25% of the workforce. And we're like, that's interesting.
my gosh.
Yeah. So not long after that hackathon that you saw, things started getting a bit weird, and there was kind of some rumors and stuff floating around, and we kind of had heard things but didn't have any strong confirmation. And then there used to be a Slack server for all the developers who were enthusiastic about Pebble development, and we would just kind of hang out in there and talk about what projects we were working on and stuff. And the further along it got with this weirdness, where that was like a constant topic now of what's going on. Are they going to go out of business? What's going to happen? And just one night, I think like December 6th or something, there was like a real sort of leaky article of by a blog called The Information, but it was behind a paywall. But they were they kind of confirmed it. And so at that point, all of us on this, at the time it was Slack. We use Discord now, but I'm pretty sure at that time we were still on the Slack. All of us just were like, okay, we need to start grabbing stuff. And I don't know how long these servers are going to be online. So so the whole thing started out kind of like the Palmtop site. It all started out as a wiki. And so we started pushing all the stuff into the wiki of let's reverse engineer how the shop API work, how the App Store API works, get all we can on the wiki so that we can build it again if we have to. And let's pull down all the binaries off of let's write a script to pull down all the binaries.
Wow.
And, so we're just archiving, hoarding information, reverse engineering. Click on that first. Yeah. So this is like in real time. So click on, I don't know, like the App Store on the right-hand side, there should be like App Store reverse engineering or firmware reverse engineering, any of the reverse engineering.
Oh, yeah. All this stuff.
So everyone, is just going to town. Everyone's got different interests and skills. Some people have the ability to write web scraping stuff, so they're focusing on that. Other people are into microcontrollers and reverse engineering, so they're working on that. And everyone's just kind of grabbing stuff. And then, once we realized this is real, this is happening, we kind of, felt the need to get a bit organized. Sometimes people were doing 3 people are working on the exact same thing of trying to archive the App Store, and we're like, well, let's let's be a bit more coordinated and stuff. And so within a couple days of that, in fact, I think if you go to the blog, it'll probably if you go to the first blog post and go to the bottom and just go to whatever the oldest pages you can go to. Yeah. So I think I think that, yeah. So what's the date on the December 9th? So 3 days after we found out that Pebble wasn't going to be a thing anymore, we came up with the name Rebel, which
it's so good.
Yeah, it's so good because it's just Pebble with a little support on the P, and we continued the process of reverse engineering stuff, and we're very lucky to have all the people from Pebble, the former Pebble engineers, are all very passionate, and we had people helping us. That was like the night. That was like the night that it happened, I think. My love letter to Pebble and the Pebble community. And then 2 days after that, Rebel is a thing. And we actually got really lucky because Pebble itself collapsed as a company. It wasn't a company anymore. Fitbit did not acquire them, which is something that people are very confused about.
I was very confused about that. Yes.
Yep. So Fitbit did not acquire Pebble. Huh. What they did is allowed Pebble to expire and then picked through their entrails and just pick the pieces they want instead of taking on the company and their debts and all that stuff.
Wow.
So they picked up a bunch of the team and a bunch of the IP and none of the hardware. But we had a lot of people who were, like I said, former Pebble engineers, and then they moved over to Fitbit. And so we had a lot of people advocating for the survival of Pebble as part of that. And, it should have been on December 6th or whenever the, credit cards started bouncing, all the servers started to turn off. But Fitbit gave us, they enabled us to reverse engineer it. They gave us more time.
That's so good. I love
and
this collaboration with the community.
Yeah.
Like, even though they're a corporation, they're trying to make money. They're not evil. They're, it's a beautiful collaboration. I love it.
A lot of people, anytime it comes up on Twitter, people will be hating on Fitbit because they killed Pebble, but they actually really helped us keep things alive, and they allowed one last version of the app to be published that basically enabled all of our alternative API endpoints to be executed. There was a way to do it before, but it was a bit of a hack that they used for testing internally. And Fitbit pushed one last version of the app that allowed you to do this straight out the back, so that you can, if you look on our how-to on there, it'll tell you how to do it. But so Fitbit was super helpful. And even, there's some Fitbit got bought by Google. And so now we have, people at Google who are trying to see if we can get that original code open sourced, so we can just have it instead of having to reverse engineer it. But there's all kinds of, legal hurdles and things like that that have to be contended with. But we've been very lucky and got a lot of collaboration and help. Another thing is the iOS, you have to pay your $99 every year to Apple, otherwise your app store goes away. And Fitbit kept doing that for a couple of years until basically the app was so old that it couldn't work on iOS anyway. So we got a lot of help, and we appreciate.
That's really nice. And, especially because the Pebble Time round, I've actually still got one. In my opinion, that's one of the only smartwatches that I think is actually aesthetically pleasing. This Misfit Shine device also is also quite old. But those two are the only two smart devices that I will regularly actually want to wear, because they're just so nicely done.
Yeah, the PTR is awesome. I love the PTR. Yeah.
PTR! Oh yeah, I gotta get cool with the lingo.
I mean, the cool word is they all have their alternative code names like Applite and Basalt, and they have names based on they have their Applite, Basalt, Chalk. So PTR is actually Chalk, but then there's also this parallel Tintin nomenclature. So things will be called that's the hardware, and then the actual corresponding platforms will be called various Tintin characters, because I guess that's Eric Michkowski, who founded it, was into, I think.
That's so interesting. Oh man, I feel like we've gone an hour in, and there's still so much we could talk about. In case people don't know, we actually do talk fairly frequently, just for casual times, and I'm so excited to have finally gotten you on the show. Permit me my celebration. And everyone, you can follow David on Twitter, follow the links below, follow him on Hackster, of course, all kinds of cool stuff on here, COVID stuff. Like I mentioned in the description, you've built a lot of cool things for smart homes for parents and stuff, plus fun stuff like this reactive art using sentiment analysis, Mona Lisa machine learning thing we didn't even get to, eliminating Detroit food deserts with autonomous delivery robots. What? So much cool stuff to dig into. So I hope that everyone will take a minute to do that after the show. And thank you again, David, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was awesome to get to be on here. It's been a fun journey from the Pebble Hackathon to the Hackster Café.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for joining us. Actually, I just see a couple of last-minute questions, but we'll try and follow up with those in text, maybe, on Twitter or some such. But thank you again for joining us. Have an awesome rest of your day, and hack on!